So, our story begins at the Green Gauntlet. It's a fairly rundown inn at very close to the port in Selgond. The crew of the Thirsty Beggar isn't very large, but in the tiny tap room, they are as loud and seem as many as a crew twice their size. The captain, Corvus Valm, is sitting in the corner, speaking with a stranger you don't know, but he's dressed in all too fine and noble of an attire for the setting. Quartermaster Norlin Earlstar is sitting at the table nearest Corvus, sorting through documents, seemingly unperturbed by the boisterous cacophony that's going on around him. Master Gunner Grimnor Silverforge is sitting at the bar and is holding a large tankard in his prosthetic left hand. Seemingly trying to ignore Bosun Gunk, who has just left the bar carrying a round of drinks for the table of new recruits. Maybe the kobold would find it easier to dress in less ratty clothing if he didn't spend every coin on the crew as soon as it hit his pocket. But where, Remora, would we find you in all of this? Who would you speak with? You've been promised the short time will be brief, but
Sure.
Where would we find you tonight?
I think I would likely be among the new recruits.
Okay.
With that group.
So the new recruits are at these two tables.
Okay.
We'll say that you're joining one veteran of the ship, Stram Terasnov, and two new recruits, twins, Tiu and Liu. They've introduced themselves to you multiple times, but they're so identical and they even dress in similar clothing, it's always impossible to tell the brothers apart.
And I got Tiu and Liu. Who are the other two?
The other so those are the two new recruits at this
Okay.
table. The other two new recruits are at a different table.
Okay, gotcha.
The veteran at your table is Stram Terasnov, and as you're sitting, Stram is telling the twins about all of his adventures at sea, very boisterously proclaiming about how they've fought off pirates, and the captain has always made a show of traveling through harsher waters. Would you have any tales to add to this conversation? Tiu and Leo seem completely captured, and you've known them to be ready for a story at every opportunity.
Well, I would just kind of come in occasionally and well, you know, it's mostly like my doing and kind of like getting us through this rougher water. He's there, but, you know, he's kind of overselling his own importance in all this.
Okay. And as you and Stram were kind of like almost elbowing back and forth to get in to tell different parts of the story, as Stram starts to become more boisterous, Bosun Gunk does make his way over to the table, just meekly poking up. Hi, would anyone like any drinks?
Yeah.
And passes out around. And I went through the market earlier today. I got everyone gifts and passes out little tiny boxes to everyone, including you, Remora.
Gunk, you have to be a little more responsible. I appreciate it, but this is getting a little bit excessive, don't you think?
Oh, well, it spoke to me. Everyone seemed like they needed something, especially you, Remora. You're always keeping an eye out, and at night, while the rest of us, we have good eyes for it. I thought maybe this little charm might help you. Oh, I've now spoiled the surprise. It's a charm.
Man. I appreciate it, Gunk. Thank you.
Thank you. And Hurley turns around and heads over to one of the other tables, and Stram just immediately tears open his package, and inside is a small arrowhead that seems to have a large hook on it, as if it was capable of holding something. So just at the very end of it, it's hollowed out a little bit.
Okay.
Tiu and Liu open theirs to find small wristbands in each, one green and one red. Hopefully that'll help tell them apart.
Okay. What do I get?
Inside your case is a small chain necklace with a ring at the end, and affixed to that ring is a golden anchor, just a very small anchor.
Okay. Does it strike me as having any significance, or is it just a little trinket?
It has a gleam and lack of any grime or dirt that leads you to believe there is something special likely about this charm. It shines, especially in the rinky, rundown place you are, with a brightness that seems warming.
Okay, cool.
As the night goes on, the mysterious man takes his leave, and Captain Corvus stands and addresses the entire room. Almost immediately, the room goes silent without him needing to say a word, just his presence commanding everyone's attention. Tomorrow's trail, we're going to have a passenger. Normally, I only like taking goods, but the man's coin speaks loud enough to make an exception. We're going all the way to Spindelian.
Okay.
It'll be a 5-day travel, taking the faster path, and that means everyone should be ready for whatever harshness we might come across.
I'm not one to question our assignments, but does anyone seem concerned or uneased?
At the mention of possible harsh conditions, there's actually a bit of celebration from some. People seem excited for the idea of possible difficulties, something to shake up recent dullness aboard the ship. And even the newer recruits have seen some, but are starting to become antsy a little bit. Grab whatever precautions you might need, any supplies that might need restocked in case things turn unpleasant, and I'll see you lot in the morning. And he makes his way out.
Out of the bar?
Out of the inn, yes.
Okay. What's the rest of the group doing?
So everyone else is continuing to drink, planning to stay the night at the Green Gauntlet. Rooms have been prepared upstairs. You've been given your own if you want it, or your space on the ship is also available just in dock.
I think I'll continue to, enjoy the time off with the group, but as things start to die down, I will go to the ship for the night.
Okay. Everyone else is retiring at the end. The only person who would retire before you that evening would be the Master Gunner Grimnor. He makes his way upstairs fairly shortly after the announcement, just to rest. And as you leave, the quartermaster is still working on his documents diligently in the corner. You make your way to the ship, and you're pretty much the only one at the dock. It's very late at night, very dark, almost no moonlight tonight, and the ship is quiet.
So, learning about the ship, do I have my own quarters, or is it shared?
So you have your own quarters, something that you did not have for the first year, but after a fair bit of harsh trials at sea, eventually earned your own bedding.
Okay. So for a short while, I'm going to spend time up on the deck and just kind of observing the dock and the city around me, not rushing off the bed or anything like that.
Okay. Make a perception check for me.
Okay. First roll. Let's go. 9.
Okay. The waters seem calm. Like I said, not really many people out and about. You occasionally see people stumbling through the streets, just making their ways to wherever the night will have them.
Okay. Yeah. Well, once I get sleepy, I'll just head to bed.
Okay.
And I'm going to take a closer look at the necklace that I was given.
Right. Focusing in on it, you find that it has some powers. As you sit on the boat that night, keeping an eye out, eventually your eyes adjust to the darkness more so than they normally would. You still can't see too well, but every little thing starts to catch your eye, as the charm will give you advantage on perception checks.
Awesome. Well, overnight I will attune to it.
And that brings us to the next morning. The crew returns to the ship early on. The finely dressed man, now wearing a purple vest and very clean slacks and just high fashion boots, boards the ship, accompanied by a large crate that two of the men have to help push on, despite it having its own wheels.
Are there any markings or anything on the crate?
There are no markings on the crate.
Okay.
But it is very large. You'd say probably about 8 feet by 4 feet. 8 feet wide, 4 feet tall, maybe another 4 feet long. Corvus introduces the man to everyone as Koban, a man anxious to get to Spendelian.
Okay. And does he seem to like kind of keep himself away from most of the crew?
Absolutely not. As
okay.
everyone's running around getting the riggings ready, seems like a fascinated child running around, peeking at everyone, oohing and awing at everything they do. Fascinating, just fascinating to see. Oh, you do that. Oh, wow, I've never seen someone climb like that. And just overall taking in the experience of being on a boat. And you're at sea.
Okay.
Tell me, while at sea, you've been keeping an eye, you largely just keep an eye on the sea, any approaching storms, but is there a particular time of day that you devote to that, or is it something you check every morning and evening, or is it something that's regulated throughout the day?
I think throughout the day I'm usually just like helping the crew with tasks around the ship, but definitely in the mornings and throughout the night, essentially, is when I'm most like set on watching.
Okay. So the first day at sea goes by uneventful. You eventually see the shoreline vanish. One advantage of the Thirsty Beggar's willingness to venture out away from the shoreline is that you get these serene moments where even on an inland sea, all you can see is water all around. It's blissful, nice, and unfortunately interrupted. As the evening comes, you find Coben coming up to you as you're kind of at the head of the ship, just watching the sea. You see a storm in the distance, and Coben just comes up. Now tell me, what is it that finds you on this ship?
Well, you see that storm off in the distance. That's essentially why I'm here. I make sure that this ship doesn't hit any unnecessary troubles in its travels. So I make sure.
You're a navigator. Fascinating.
Yeah, essentially, that's what I do. I see the storm over there. I make sure the ship does not hit that.
Fascinating. And how did the captain manage to procure you for a life like this? Hair like that? You'd make a fine part of any theater troupe.
Well, I would say, be that as it may, I'm a bit more interested in traveling on the ocean than sitting cooped up in a theater somewhere. Don't you think?
Cooped up, I see the world, darling. I write, I act, and I travel wherever I want.
Are you a playwright?
I'm a writer of sorts, yes. I'm preparing my next performance for when we arrive, actually.
Okay, what's it about?
2 sisters, one cursed by a forbidden feast, and the other spending all her days trying to save her. It's a tale of woe and loss, passion and heartbreak, mystery and intrigue. By this time next year, everyone will be dying for it.
Does it end happily, I hope?
Oh, well, that you will have to wait and see, my dear.
I might. Before you ask, I don't have any experience in acting, and I can't stay away from the ship. But I might come see the show.
Well, if you find yourself in Spendelian a few weeks from now, feel free to stop by. It won't take long for the show to start.
Has this show ever been performed? Is it a favorite?
No, I'm still writing it now, looking for inspiration in all places.
Okay. Does the crate you brought have anything to do with that?
Oh, just some of my costumes and other important pieces that I need to bring with me.
Oh, I understand that.
Tell me, have you been traveling with Corvus long?
Well, a couple years, here and there.
Well, I'm curious. Corvus was the only one I could hear of who would be able to get me to Spendelian fast enough. Why is it that only this ship seems willing to traverse dangerous waters?
I think it's just essentially good luck, don't you think? I mean, the ship's reputation precedes us, and perhaps whenever someone sees our flag flying, like they don't bother us. That we tend to not have, any altercations while we're sailing.
And I suppose as navigator you lead them away from such troubles as well?
I keep an eye out for that as well.
Very well, very well. Well, it's been a pleasure speaking with you. What's your name, by the way? I don't believe we were introduced.
My name is Remora.
Remora. Interesting. I speak to the deckhands. I speak to the master gunner. Remora, I guess the navigator, but I was not given a title for anyone else.
It's not an official role. I'm just essentially the best one for the job. I just started doing it after I joined the crew.
Well, then I won't keep you from it. The skies seem dark ahead, at least. Good night.
Good night, Coben.
And he makes his way below deck, as many others do. There are several still out, making small adjustments here and there overnight. As you're keeping a watch, give me another perception check.
Is this site-based?
Indeed.
24.
Okay. So you see, with 24, you see a couple of things. One, the storm does seem to be expanding. It seems like you've often seen storms that might be on the move and you could avoid, or that would be small enough to not cause issue. But this one seems like it would be dangerous, and it doesn't seem to be moving out of your path.
Okay.
You also, though, see a ship in the distance, and it seems to be flying a dark flag. And the final thing you see with your 24 is something approaching in the air. Very small, very high up, but as it grows closer, it grows larger, and you see wings.
All right. I would presume that is the most pressing event. Can I detect if it is humanoid beyond the wings, or what?
As it gets closer, you will notice humanoid limbs.
Okay.
Yes.
Is it armed?
Its hands seem empty.
Okay. Well, I am going to keep an eye on it. Is there anyone keeping watch for the night besides myself?
No one strictly keeping watch, but there are other people on deck tending to different things.
All right. I'm going to whistle at the closest one to me and gesture at the one flying.
Okay. You grab Havis's attention, and he comes over. Havis is a shorter half-elf. He has been on the ship longer than you have, and he seems to always just have enough energy to keep going, even though he's not as strong as some of the other members of the crew.
We have someone flying towards us. Do you see that? Come this way?
It's a bit dark.
Yeah, it's still a ways out, but it's definitely flying towards us. I don't know. The way I see it, I see arms coming off it. Do you mind letting everyone else who's up on deck know, just so that we can, be ready, just in case?
Yeah, looks like we might have a messenger coming.
Okay, I'll intercept him.
Havis makes his way around, pointing it out to a couple of other people, as you see a large humanoid Aven creature land just on the railing. They have a rapier at their side, but not drawn, and a bandana around their head, and other loose cloth hanging around the rest of their body.
Greetings. Do you have any business with the Thirsty Beggar?
I'm Woe-Caller of the Woe Ship.
Is the Woe Ship that dark, shadowy ship off in the
Yes,
distance?
and you can make a history check for me.
Okay.
You've definitely heard of the Woe Ship before, but I want to know how much you'll know of it.
15.
Okay. So you are familiar with the Woe Ship being a pirate ship that operates on the western end of the kind of contested pirate waters. You understand that they're a crew of just lesser pirates kind of just skimming by. They operate further out because they don't want to run into a lot of the other pirates.
Okay.
I'm here to call. Payment if you want through these waters.
Oh, I see. Perhaps you're new to this, aren't you? Do you know this ship? And I gesture at our flag.
I don't know the ship, but do you know ours? And they point off into the distance at the ship.
Yes, I do know your ship, but I would not say that you, you know, understand the arrangements that our ship has. We travel through here essentially for free, and we can do business with your ship if you'd like, but we do not pay any kind of tithe.
The woe caller doesn't seem to be paying attention to you. They're watching back at their own ship now.
What's the ship doing?
It's sinking.
Oh. Okay. Well, I'm gonna call out.
And it takes off and immediately is flying back towards the ship.
Okay. I'm gonna call out to everyone on deck, and I don't see any cause of the sinking. Do I?
Not with a cursory glance. No.
Okay. Well, I'm going to alert all awake hands and just be prepared for anything.
As you do, you see only momentarily Grimnar come up onto the deck, peeks out, looks around, turns and goes running back down, his stocky form shaking the steps as he goes, leaving loud echoes of him running down below. And you can hear a moment later the sides of the ship start to open up as cannons peek out.
Okay, I'll trust his judgment as he's the master gunner. Do I see, like, that people are waking up and emerging on deck? Things like that?
No one extra is coming onto deck, no.
Okay.
After Grimnar, no one else came behind. But everyone else seems to be readying just for whatever comes next.
Sure, yeah. I'm going to rally the folks that are up on deck and just be ready.
So, we have Havis, Grimzout, and Gruldo being one of the new recruits, all up on the deck with you. And a moment later, Corvus also comes up and looks around just as something emerges from the sea. A large tentacle sprouts up and smacks against the side of the boat, sending it toppling side to side momentarily as several other large tentacles sprout up and start swinging about, grabbing and splashing the water all about, the ship turning and turning. I'm going to have everyone roll initiative.
All right. That's an 11 for me.
11, so for our tentacled friend.
Literal tentacles.
So these large tentacles come up and start splashing. You can already hear from down below, not a cannon, but some other smaller combustion fire off into one of the tentacles, and you see a puff of smoke up the side of the ship, and one of the tentacles kind of writhes back and forth as if it's been struck in pain. After which Corvus runs up to the side of the ship, pulls out his short sword and jams it into one of the tentacles, and does so very well, slicing off a large section of it. Just an entire sucker comes off, lands on the ship. Some of the tentacle that is cut is still writhing, but it's spitting out this dark ichor everywhere. And then, Remora, we come to you.
Sure. I'm going to run to the one down here next to the archer and draw my falchion with one hand and try to swing at it.
Okay.
That is an 18.
18 hits.
Okay. 5 damage.
Okay. You swing into the side of it, and again, this just black ichor coats your blade and comes spurting out the side of it as the tentacle writhes back and forth. These tentacles, now that you've gotten up closer to them, are huge, larger than any giant squid you've seen before. Okay, so after Remora, we have our giant tentacled creature, and it is going to grab at a few people. Okay, it grabs at Havis, Groldo, and tries to grab at the captain as well.
Okay.
So it's going to hit Havis, miss Groldo, and it's going to hit the captain. And they are both now held aloft, Havis and the captain, in these large tentacles.
Okay.
as we go to the sailor's turn. So Havis is going to swing at the tentacle, holding on to him, and Havis is going to hit. Oof. Rimzout's going to miss, and Gruldo is going to miss. Followed by some sounds below deck. You can hear some shouting coming, but we then move to the captain, who is slashing at the tentacle that holds him and hitting for... And then Remora, we come to you again.
Okay. I'm going to cast... let's see, how wide is the boat?
The boat is about... In actuality, it's about 30 feet wide.
Okay. I'm going to move to about here and then cast Lightning Lure at the tentacle holding Havis.
Ooh, okay.
And it must make a strength saving throw.
Strength save. It is pretty strong. A 16, is probably going to make it.
And does it look like Havis has been hurt at all?
He looks injured, yes.
Okay. No, I think I'm good.
But he's, again, reveling in it.
Yeah. I think I'll be alright for now then.
Okay. It's going to grab again, this time at you, and that would be Rimzout. So the attack against you gets a 17 to hit your armor class.
That'll hit.
So I need you to take 8 points of bludgeoning damage, as you are now also held in one of these big tentacles. And the attack against Rimzout, it's having a rough time hitting these sailors. I mean, they can't hit it either, but the sailors are doing at least kind of okay. Speaking of which, that brings us to the sailor who is held, Havis, as that tentacle shoots underwater, holding Havis in it. And then same thing on the other side, as the captain is pulled under as well. That brings us to the sailors on deck. They're going to both, having seen this, run over and start trying to hack at the one that's holding you.
Okay.
And actually, I said that thing, but now they're actually both going to hit it. So some more damage as it just gets further and further cut up. And it's now just more so, like, the tentacle's been writhing back and forth, spewing this black ichor. The entire thing seems covered in it, and it's thick on you, like tar, some kind of odd, not blood-like substance.
Okay.
There's another explosion down below, this one into the water. And then some stuff maybe happens underwater. And then, Remora, we are back to your turn.
I am going to cast Thunderclap on myself. So, con save.
It got a 12.
That'll fail. Takes 2 thunder damage. And then I'm going to cast, as a bonus action, Healing Word on myself.
Okay.
Alright. I heal a little bit of health.
After which we get to the tentacled creature. And you're going to lose track of what happens above as it pulls you below. Okay. And you can see, once you get down there, you're fine underwater. Mm-hmm. But Corvus and Havis are both struggling against their tentacles, and it's clear that Havis, at least, is starting to run out of breath as he's kind of, like, barely beating. He seems more frantic. Okay. Corvus does as well, but not quite to the same extent. And they are just pulled deeper, and you can see the body of this creature. It doesn't seem like a squid or octopus. It's one large open mouth that you're being dragged towards, the body of it lost in the shadow beneath it. And stuff happens above water. Havis actually breaks free. He is struggling. He's not stabbing into it anymore. He's just turning, pulling, and actually manages to pull himself free and is meekly starting to try to swim back up to the surface. Okay. Brings us to Corvus, who as well tries but fails to free himself. Remora, we are to you.
I'm somewhat panicking, seeing the massive mouth. I'm going to just stab down at the one that's holding me, using both hands. 11?
11 is going to miss, unfortunately.
Okay. Alright, I'm done.
So it continues to pull Corvus down deeper, and it's going to try to get a hold back of Havis. It misses. Havis is still just swimming away from it, very, very slowly, but he's making his way away. And it's going to pull you deeper. And no, a 15 misses your armor class, is that right?
That needs it.
Oh, okay. It is going to constrict onto you for 5 points of bludgeoning damage.
Okay.
As it pulls you deeper still. Some stuff happens above water. Havis is swimming. Doesn't make it all the way to the surface, though. Corvus struggles. Does not manage to break free. Remora.
Okay. I'm going to attack the tentacle again. I miss. And then I'm going to cast Healing Word on myself. I'll heal a little bit.
Okay. Pulls Corvus deeper. And Havis is going to get away. He's close enough to the surface, and it can't grab him with its other tentacle. Havis just can't get caught. And it's definitely going to be able to pull you deeper. And as it does, I need you to take 5 more points of bludgeoning damage. You can see Havis running out of breath as he swims away. You can see Corvus. He seems to have lost his ability to hold his breath any longer. You see the air escaping between his tusk, and you can feel, even though you're not drowning, the grip around you is getting tighter. It seems to have squeezed the air out of Corvus, trying to drown him, but it seems to be frustrated that it can't drown you, and it seems to be trying to suffocate you.
Okay.
Still wrapping around you, pulling on your chest so tight. You blink back the pain and wince as your body convulses, and you're just reaching around for anything you can grab, and you do manage to grab a hold of something.
What?
Grass. Why is there grass?
Why is there grass?
You blink open your eyes from the pain, and you find that you're on land. In the middle of some kind of field.
Captain? Captain, are you okay? Do I see him?
You see some people. As you try to focus and get your senses about you, you look up through your own matted hair. You're soaking wet, and you can see some people standing, some people moving. The ones who are moving are running. They're running all away from you in different directions. And as you look around, you see this blur of green and black come tumbling past you out of nowhere, as if propelled at some great speed. It just like tumbles across the grass. And standing almost right next to you, then you notice this figure in white robes, something you've never seen before, looks entirely foreign and alien to you.
Who are you?
As you try to speak, you're just coughing up water that had filled your lungs. And whatever has happened, things are definitely weird. And whatever has happened, you definitely hurt a lot. And whatever has happened, and no matter how much it hurts, it's almost definitely time to stand up. As you've just been landed on your hands and knees and start to try to stand up. And that is the end of our session 0. Just something real brief.
Okay.
And that is where we will pick up next time.
Okay. Oh man, I was worried there.